Yeah, episode 5 of Blerd Talk. That word is religion.
You want me to say it?
No,
Yes.
I got it. Forward on. So before we started, I was looking at random articles about that. And
Wait, first of all, what was the question? I didn't even hear you.
Is
why you look so
religion
lost?
and tech? Because I was like, how do you know the topic? So I'm confused as hell.
But they don't know the topic.
They don't know the topic.
Yeah, they don't know.
Then Alex talk and say it. No,
So
like
you-
you say, you go.
Is religion integral to the Black community?
Boom. All right. So
Why you
now
so
back to
scared
me.
of the word?
Now back to me. So I was looking at this article, right? And it says by many measures, according to this article, African Americans are more religious than whites and Latinos. 83% believe God in absolute certainty. 75% says religion is very important. 73 say they pray daily. 47 say they attend religious services at least once a week. I mean, I don't go to church. For the ones who are spiritual and religious in this podcast. For the ones that are religious and spiritual
in your background.
Right. For the ones who are religious and spiritual in this podcast, what do you think?
No, all right. I'm looking at the bottom two here.
Wait,
Definitely
hold up. So I do have a background with the Holy Spirit and the Holy Ghost and everything like that. No, okay. No, the Holy Trinity, basically. Most people know the Holy Trinity, of course, but yeah, I've known into that, and yes, it is. I have not met, except for like, if I meet a person of color, Black person, basically, and I talk to him and we'll have a conversation, and something good happens, he'd be like, "Oh my God, thank God," and it's just like. So it hasn't failed once where I've seen it in like every single African American community. Like there is heavily church, heavily God.
God. I kind of say that I'm not even heavily religious, and I be like, oh, swear to God, or like.
I mean, but
God,
you're just you. Okay, so when you say swear to God, you're not supposed to.
Like
if a person, you're not supposed to be doing that. So you're not supposed to be swearing to God, because you'd be like, people go look at you and be like, "What are you doing?" But that's just something you just say that's just integrated into you. Like most people say, "Oh my God," and stuff like that. But you're not supposed to say that either. But people say it anyway. So
So I'm about to be smited.
Yeah, it varies on some people. Like my dad, he thinks if he walked into a church, he's gonna get struck by a bolt of lightning. I'm like, that's not how it works. But all right. But some like the religion in our community is taken in a different way. It's taken to the extremes. I don't put myself in that same aspect as extreme religious everything. I drink. I have tattoos.
Yeah, you're not super sick.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not all that. I mean, none of us are, but some people try to be, especially in our culture. Like they'll be like, but the funny thing is that they preach and praise all these things and everything. Oh, but they be doing some old foul stuff.
Run that sound back one more time. Maybe like what?
Maybe like. Oh. But maybe, and that's one of the interesting things I've seen the African American community is that they be heavily into church and everything like that, but they are literally the worst people sometimes, and it's just like, what, you are all of this and you are literally one of the people I just do not want to talk to. And it's not based on your religion or anything like that. It's just based on your character. It's just based on your character. That's it. Or how you take things.
What is the correlation? Because I also see this that about about 8 in 10 African Americans identify as Christian. Like, what's the correlation with that? Like, why?
Why Christian or Catholic or Baptist
or Muslim or Buddhist?
Muslim and stuff. Okay, so I know some people are gonna flame me for this, but all of them are the same. You're doing the same. You're serving the same purpose. I've never understood. So there was this thing where a Buddhist monk, he was talking about the gods, all the gods and all that stuff, and he was like, everything, all these gods that we all name off and everything, they all want the same exact thing from all their people. But people be like, oh, your Muslim God, this, and I'll be looking at people and I'll be like, okay, so but Muslim has a God or a Jesus, he just has a whole different name. So, but it's quite funny. Baptists, like, how these people, they bathe themselves in the water of God by getting baptized in the water, and they come out, they be all spiritually cleansed and everything like that. You're not cleansed. That's all in your mind.
So,
okay.
Oh,
there he is.
Hey, you're down there.
Technical difficulties with your
yeah, that was
you're
wicked.
A religion person. Woo!
That was wicked.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, what you were saying?
It's a couple things, really. So the first thing I want to say is to address what you were saying, Dots. You're like, hey, like, it's really akin to our community. Why? And I was thinking in my head, I wonder if there is a link between a culture or a person's level of hopelessness and despair to how deeply religious / in faith they are. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the times, at least in media, and I don't know if it's really a mass because I don't talk to people in mass like that, but usually it's people who are like down on their luck, worst of the worst, on drugs, on alcoholics, things like that.
Prison.
And then they suddenly find God. And then God made everything perfect for them. And it's like, at this point, it's like a trope. And it's like, why does this happen so much to so many people who are down on their last knee, falling to hopelessness, falling to despair, falling to all that stuff. And then suddenly just God spawn, and then everything's okay for them. So I just wonder if there may be a correlation between a person's mental state as far as their level of hopelessness, despair, or lack of self-confidence in oneself to even believe they can accomplish things versus those people who just don't believe. Like, for example, like, thinking in my head, I've never seen an atheist that doesn't have confidence. Like, those two things just never mesh ever.
You mean like confidence in general, or
confidence in general. Like, they're generally well versed in their belief in a lot of these notions, and it's pretty interesting just kind of thinking about the kind of characters I've met based on the religions they've practiced. This isn't to say because you're another religion you can't be well versed or anything like that, but I'm saying I've specifically met only confidence in people who are atheists, and it's pretty interesting. And then on the other fronts, for Christianity, I meet a pretty wide spectrum, but a lot of people, when it gets done like questioning, burrowing down, figuring out why, a lot of the times I just kind of uncover people who just lack self-confidence in their ability to do things, and or just the thought of there not being something else disturbs them to the point where they rather believe than just not, even if the not was the truth.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting. A lot of countries that have a lot of I guess a high survival type. Survival is hard, Most of those countries have a really, really high religious
population. Yeah, like if someone says you only live for 40 years, you can probably start believing in something tomorrow.
Yeah,
but
so it's just
1,000 years to live. I got time.
But like America is like we're in the middle. Like we have some people that are unimportant, some people that are atheists and stuff like that, and everything like that. And atheists aren't even like I don't know why a lot of people in our like country, Christians and stuff, they see atheists like, oh, you're doomed to hell, and it's like you're not supposed to say that. So,
yeah, religion in a sense walks this weird fine line because on one end, you don't supposed to judge, you're not supposed to cast angels, blah 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 blah. Then on the other side, you do supposed to go out, teach, preach, the word of God, save as many people, all that stuff. And it's like, well, I mean, this religion is practicing that, but your goal is to tell them to practice this. But both of y'all may be trying to do the same thing. I mean, at one end of the day, one of y'all can't be right. Someone has to be eventually wrong somewhere down the religious bandwagon, or at least by how they practice. Like, for example, something that recently caught my attention from the podcast we've been listening to before and things like that. And just kind of doing a quick Google research, like when you were saying a lot of the religions practice the exact same thing, it's the exact same person, blah blah blah, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So in one religion, for example, Islam, just doing a Google quick search here, they're permitted to marry multiple wives, but in Christianity, that would be a very no.
Yeah, that's very
frowned upon. But the funny thing about that, back then, if you read the Bible, people that did that were still marrying multiple people.
They were, but it still wasn't okay though.
It still wasn't okay.
It wasn't okay.
But it was still there.
Yeah, but one religion says it's okay and permitted, and another one says no. That's a pretty huge schism between those two. Also, the people who they want to worship between I can't remember if it's Judaism, Christianity, or Catholicism, but one of them believes Mary is the most important being ever, and you need to worship Mary. And the other one thinks Jesus is the most important, which I think is Christianity. Most here need to worship that one. And then I forgot who the other person of interest was. And it's like, okay, cool, but why is the focus just not on God himself, which then would be
only on him himself,
because it'd be that's Jesus or God's son. That'd be the most purest form of representation, blah 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 blah. But not trying to get into that, but just different things that can literally get you cast out forever in a sense if you do these things, accept sins, blah blah blah. But how you practice really matters too, and there's stark differences between them all. Even if it's the same God, that'd be weird. It'd be if you have a principal at one school and he's okay with you making a C, but then you go to another school and he's like, nah, we only take A's here. And but you're the same guy. How do you accept this here, but then you don't accept this here?
But like I was saying earlier, Jesus is in every single one of those. He has a different name. He literally just has a different name.
I'm sure he ain't saying different things then, I hope. If he says 8 different things in 4 different books.
So my friend Sharif, he's Muslim, and when he was reading me his Bible that they read, the Quran, the stories were literally almost identical. So I was just like, huh. And he was like, yeah, y'all named Jesus. Ours is, I forgot what the name was.
I think.
But I don't know. But I was just like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So
that's slightly a little off tangent. From Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, where Hohenheim, he went west or east or west, whatever. He was.
I knew it was coming.
But anyway, he went one way, and they looked at him as a certain type of. He's the same person. He's teaching the same thing, but it took different paths. So I just want to make the correlation between that. Go ahead, knock yourself out.
I mean, yeah, I know, I see what you're getting at, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, but in the end of it all, at the end of it all of them are all of. Okay, I don't know about all, but most of them are about peace. Mm-hmm. Like, and that's the confusing thing I find about it.
Well, I guess I'm a skeptic. Not like a skeptic, but if you think about it, you think about like the history of religion and everything, and like how heavy Christianity is in Black households. You look back in the history when in slavery, what was basically our oppressors basically telling us? Christianity. You need to learn Christianity, Yeah. And we actually took it as our own, and we made it, into our own beliefs, into our own hopes. Like you said, religion. I can't remember. Somebody had said it one time, and it was interesting. But it was just like, think of religion as like a rainbow, and you just picking a color. Like, how you see something and you pick a color, you see a color, you see it differently than the other person. That's basically what like religion comes down to. Like, they all have their own different perspectives. Like, Jesus is important here, but God is important here, and Mary is important here, and they have different different objectives and goals and what they say. But you also look at like the Crusades and stuff like that, and how they actually use Christianity to murder people, to enslave people. So it's all of what you take of it, because when you really go down into it, they say that they're white. You have Jesus as being white, but then when you actually do the history and the research, you look and see that they were actually people. Yeah, they're people of color. But
yeah, Islamic.
Yeah, you don't get stuff like that. But what you do get is like, especially over here, like stuff like Santa Claus. You get like different things like that. Like I remember, I remember like at work and stuff. There was somebody that was like really into like Islam, like they had converted over. They didn't believe in nothing. They didn't believe in like.
Okay, so, hold on 1 second. Okay. What is going on?
What?
Y'all don't hear any of that.
I've been hearing it. I thought it was you.
I hear it tapping, but I don't.
I thought it was you this whole time.
Is that your dog, Jay?
He's trying to make a little input.
I could have sworn that was
He's trying to have ignoring it. I was trying to ignore it too. He's trying to have a little snack on the table. But basically,
all right, well, go ahead.
Basically, like it was kind of interesting having a conversation with them, because they was telling me like, they was like, hey, you celebrate like Christmas and all this other stuff. Oh yeah, not really, because like, just like I believe in the Lord and I pray every day and stuff like that, but I really don't go to church. I haven't been to church since I was probably like a kid and stuff like that, because it was like, deep into my family. When my grandmother was around. But basically she was just explaining like a different way of thinking of it. And I didn't really think about it like that, because it's like, well, who's teaching you all this? Or where did you learn all this stuff from? And I'm telling her, I'm like, yeah, school, da. And like going through that history, like, they always told us Columbus, they made us actually celebrate that. And then we come to find out that what really happened, he actually went to the wrong place, and everybody else, all that stuff that went down, that I really don't get into, because we'll go into a whole nother tangent. But trying to stay on path is basically, she was just explaining to me, is like basically like what you think is the truth is actually told you different through another person. Like you think about it, the Bible, who actually wrote the Bible, who actually wrote all this stuff down, who actually, why didn't they tell us it was people of color? Why is it they were having like works of like, like white, Caucasian? Like it's just like different stuff like that. Like that doesn't really fit in line with it.
Supposedly the Bible was written by Moses.
So did this is gonna sound so bad when I actually say it out loud. But so did Christianity or religion, did it become colonized because they say Jesus has melanin or whatever. He's like dark skin, whatever. But me growing up, all the pictures I saw of Jesus was when he was white.
Yes, the funny thing about that, and I just stopped even diving deep into it, is that they know that man was
No.
So did they pervert the
yeah, they knew he was. It said in the book. They was just like and that was it.
But
they retcon Jesus.
But no, this is what I kind of want to put out here. Is just think about it like this: the person in power, or the people that were in power, like that we have now, that think a certain type of way, different than everybody that you see now. Like, you know, everything's starting to change. People are starting to be woke, where everybody try to say everybody's woke, or everybody's starting to catch up or whatever like that.
About to get woke by these hands.
Right, but basically, you just think about it like.
Wait, why are you fighting people in this scenario?
I don't know. But
Over his God.
I just find it.
I'll fight for my God.
I just find it interesting sometimes when I start thinking, I'm like, well, what happens if we didn't get colonized, or if we were the ones that did the colonization that took over and stuff like that, and we're actually preaching, showing, hey, you need to learn Christianity, da da da.
It'd be the same thing.
But what I'm saying, would we be showing the color? Like, would we be like, oh yeah, well, this is actually a black person?
Yeah,
da, da, da.
It'd be the same thing. It just reversed. Like, it's just like reverse racism. That's what? It's the same thing.
I'm pretty sure it'd be the same. I mean, because we do it in our films. I mean, look at the dude who what's his name?
Played a dude.
Get Out or whatever. He was like, yeah, I'm only gonna have black actors in my films. I'm like, I mean, I just want you to have good actors in your films. I really don't care what they look like.
Like Warner Brothers with the Black Superman.
Yeah, we made a choice to do that. It's his choice. He can. I'm not saying it's bad or anything. Just it'd be the same thing, but in reverse.
It's just like that thing where they was like, when people were leaving their voice acting roles because they were playing a black character, and they was like, I think that a black person should voice this black character. I'm just like, don't do that. Stop that right now.
Like, it's literally acting.
So act like you're black.
Yeah, like, that's what it is. It's acting. What else could acting be?
Well, okay, that's a whole nother.
That's a whole nother.
Yeah. No, that's not even the podcast. That should be ended in 5 minutes. Don't even say that part.
Oh no, we can smash that real quick. Let's look at what the word actor is or acting.
No. I got that.
Was talking about.
No, I'm not talking about like. Let's say
okay.
Okay, so blackface, right? This is
Yeah,
nothing to do with the topic, but blackface. So let's say that's acting black, right? But that's frowned upon.
I mean, Dave Chappelle did whiteface.
But that's okay. That's okay. That's cool.
No problem. I have to stop.
We gotta talk about this now.
This is hold up. Why did you put this in? That's why I didn't want to talk about it. But basically, the blackface was so detrimental to us because, even back in that time, they didn't want us to play the roles. They were so racist into the fact that black people couldn't play the part.
We understand that back then, but we're talking about to this day now.
Robert Downey Jr. did blackface and tried to
play the black dude disguised as a black dude.
I'm the dude playing the dude disguised as another dude. You the dude who don't know who he is.
I'm explaining why that's so bad. Like, you wouldn't see nobody owning a slave right now. Like, hey, I'm gonna cosplay. You're gonna be my.
This generation will fight back.
Of course. But what I'm just saying.
Acting in a movie or a role.
No. I'm talking about what Dante just said and what Dante was trying to say. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh man.
That's specifically to that.
The one thing that made me mad, the one thing that made me mad about that is that Robbie Downey Jr. went back and apologized for doing that wrong. I was like, you did a good job.
I thought he was a black dude.
I never knew that was Iron Man until like last year.
I never knew that was Iron Man.
I never knew. I was like, what? I never finished the movie. Like, I only watched the first 30
But that's
minutes.
why. So nobody black is mad at. Well, okay, I take that back. There are some people. I know somebody who. I know some people who are upset about it. But overall, in general, the opinion is that he did a good job with that. He was a black dude.
Yeah, because
we
in
appreciated
context
that.
now. Because no, what I'm trying to say is people take it out of context because they put it in back then what it meant. When people try to do it now, they try to make it differently. But then there's still some racial tones. Like some of the people I think some of the people in Congress that got found actually dressing as like blackface at like a whole.
When they were like,
that was in Canada.
Ago.
That was in Canada. Like, it's not in the U.S.
But yeah, no, what I'm saying, no, it was. I think it was somebody at Congress or somebody in power over here. There was like a big deal that they was going on for a while because it came out. But what I was trying to say is, like, in context, like now, like people are not trying to have that malicious content that they had back then.
But we over here say white people cook food with mayonnaise all the time, and it's fine.
I mean, never mind. All right. So,
all right. Yeah, exactly. You see.
I mean, the only thing I gotta say about that is, like, even in the days where it was happening, Black people still worked hard to surpass that, and they didn't let that be the end of their struggle. So whether it happens or not, you still gotta live your life and do something. I mean, anyone can do that to anyone there. They can say, oh, he looks like XYZ animal. I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna look like this animal and go make myself successful.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
What is there really to do with it?
All I'm saying is, back then it was racist. Like, that's the
it was
term.
Racist intentions.
Yeah, exactly. Racist intentions, and they actually had, they were actually keeping people out from working, from being artists and stuff like that. But I'm saying now it's different. Like, everybody's gonna have their own perspective, and they're gonna have their own comments
that dog
and
is
stuff
going
like
in,
that.
yo.
He's going in, but.
Yeah, he's not very supportive of the podcast, James. You might have to. You might have to.
Gosh, all right, look. So
it's either I put him out and he tried to bring the door down, or like I don't know.
All right, so that's the end of this podcast. That was a good talk. We went off tangent multiple times, but we got a few points in and talking about other stuff. That's the point of the podcast, right?
Yeah, that's the talk.
Point of the podcast. The talk.
We gotta finish this discussion. I don't like where this is trying to head to with this whole black. Like, listen, you can't be picking and choosing what you like in history and what you don't like.
Why not?
So thank you for coming to the podcast. It was nice talking to all of y'all. Give your ideas, thoughts, general conversation. So
I'm done.
Yeah, like, subscribe, comment.
Like, subscribe, share, comment.
Yeah, for the good old algorithm.
Wait. I'm over it.
We'll have this conversation off podcast. How about that?
Exactly, we will. Bring that back in here.
Because I didn't. So I'm gonna go back on Path of Exile.
I ain't done with him.
Done with who?
Done with Ghost.